Diana is CZN's newest 5-star combatant. A lot of players are asking if they should be passing on this character, or does she have the ability to do, well, some pretty cool things with some of the roster currently in the game. What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We're tackling a Diana today, and this video is going to be like that review, that summary of what you should be expecting from Diana, what she's going to be adding to your account if you do decide to pull her. So the first thing we want to talk about here is going to be the playstyle, what sort of mechanics she's adding to your team, the synergies, all of that great stuff. So let's take a look at some of her cards here. And the first thing you need to know about this character is the best way to use her is always going to be involving this Quietus mechanic. Now, this is the mechanic that allows you to discard cards of hers that have this keyword on it and have them automatically activate. This is going to work well with characters like Nia, like Cassius, who want to pay for costs by discarding cards, right? And that's usually a drawback. You don't get to use that card for the turn. It's not doing anything. This will automatically activate the card for you, not only paying the cost of the other card you're using from your other character, but also giving you access to that card for free. So if you use something like Adagio on this card with All of My Heart, you're simply going to get the card cast for free, and you're going to get the benefit of it as well. Now, the other thing that she does do is she's going to be a bullet type character. So she loves doing the thing that we love doing the most in CZN, which is spamming out zero costs a lot of the time. You can see the first one I'm going to be covering here is going to be Heartbreaker, which is going to be one of the bullets that she can generate here, and it has haste as well as exhaust. But do note that this does not have Quietus by default, and we'll touch on why that's kind of important a little later on. Very simple, low damage, 96 multiplier, and it's going to discard a random bullet card in your hand as well. Do note though that both this card, Heartbreaker, and some of the other ones are going to have effects if they are discarded as well. For example, Heartbreaker here, if you discard it instead of playing it, you're going to get a 144% multiplier extra attack to a random enemy. And do note that even though this has exhaust, if you discard it, it does go to the graveyard. You can draw it, use it later, shuffle it back up through your deck with someone like Cassius, and do cool things with it. So this is going to be Heartbreaker, and it's going to be one of the mainstay ways that you're going to be doing damage with Diana. Now, in addition to Heartbreaker, she also has the ability to generate Heart Shaker. A little bit different. This is going to be a skill card, bullet, haste, and exhaust as well. And this is where one of her other key forms of her damage can come from, in the form of resonance. So resonance is when you discard a card, if the opponent has the resonance debuff on them, you're going to do a small, like 80% extra attack and then decrease resonance by 1. Think of it like Mark, but instead of where like Mark procs when you cast an attack card, resonance procs when you just discard a card for any reason. It can be shuffling your hand away with Cassius, it can be playing Adagio, it can be having like Renoa in your team as well, or any sort of future characters that are released. There's also, you know, some equipment that happens where like you discard some cards at the start of your turn and draw that many cards, right? So Heart Shaker is going to give you resonance of 1 if you cast it, and it will also discard a random card from the draw pile. However, if you do just discard Heart Shaker instead of casting it as a skill, it's going to apply 2 resonance stacks to a random enemy. So a lot of her damage is coming from extra attacks, either from putting resonance on an opponent with Heart Shaker, or discarding Heart Shaker, or just doing extra damage by discarding or casting the Heartbreakers that you are generating there. This card right here with All of My Heart, I know, is going to be one of the mainstay ways, in my opinion, that a lot of the DPS Diana builds are going to be using, and it's mainly going to come from this version of With All My Heart, where you create 3 Heartbreakers. I'm working on a full guide for something that you can use with just 2 4-star supports to make Diana kind of cracked in that way. And this is the card that breaks that entire archetype wide open. It's going to be one of the most pivotal cards there, as well as the core component to doing damage with Diana. So if you're thinking about what sort of characters you want to use her with, it's going to be someone like Nia, like Cassius. We'll cover that more on in a second. As far as her other cards go, when you're reviewing what it is you want to be doing with Diana, she also does have like a payoff card in the form of Pistol of Purification. There are 2 of this Epiphany that I like the most here. One of them is going to be this version, the E3 Epiphany, is going to allow you to just consume all of your resonant stacks with a single cast of this Pistol of Purification. So if you have a bunch of Heart Shakers, you're playing Heart Shakers, you're discarding a bunch of Heart Shakers, and you don't have enough attack cards or discard sources to discard a bunch of cards to actually get through all of those resonances, you have the resonance stacked all the way up to like 10, you can cast this Pistol of Purification or discard it because it does have Quietus as well, and just consume all of those resonance stacks and get all of those extra attacks off for just 1 to 0 AP cost with this version of Pistol of Purification. She also does have this version, the E4, that is also another payoff card as well, that gets a damage bonus for every bullet card that you've discarded this turn, which is a big one if you're playing with the likes of someone like Nia, someone like Cassia, someone like Renoa, where you can discard a bunch of cards, including Diana's bullet cards, Renoa's bullet cards, whatever it is you want, and get a massive, like, end my turn, final attack, like here's my 3000 damage multiplier because I've discarded like 30 bullet cards this turn payoff in this version of Pistol of Purification. These are going to be some of the best ways to get even more value off of your Diana teams when it comes to giving Diana damage. All right, on top of that, we also have Blooming Love, which is sort of a way for you to gain access to some of Diana's most important cards. It's going to allow you to draw a Quietus card and also have to discard 2, which isn't that great in the grand scheme of things. This is like a -1 as you TCG players would know out there. However, there are some very nice epiphanies, and my favorite one here is this version of Blooming Love that allows you to really get the ball rolling in your Diana teams. You discard one of Diana's cards that generates 3 bullet cards, and then you can play Blooming Love, discard those 3 bullet cards you just generated with Diana, and go basically tutor out of your deck your other 3 copies of whatever your most important Quietus cards are in your Diana save data. This card is definitely something that you want to have in your deck, and this version of Blooming Love has been by far the best general use one because it just gives you a ton of consistency in making sure you draw your very important Quietus cards that you are leaving in your Diana save data. Outside of that version of Blooming Love, there are a couple other ones, but they don't really chain in super crazy well, right? You have like discard all bullets in your hand to do extra attacks. This kind of just ends your combo, it ends your turn. It could be like a payoff card where you're just like, okay, well, my turn's over, I'm gonna cast this Blooming Love, I'm gonna discard the bullets in my hand. It could be okay, but keep in mind, a lot of bullets cost 0, Diana's especially, so it doesn't really give you as much benefit as the E3 version of Blooming Love really is. And there's some other copies of Blooming Love, like this one, that can generate heart bullets for you. Listen, don't disrespect this Blooming Love. It is just phenomenal as like a one of in your Diana save data. If you can gain access to it, this should be the one that you're looking for. Now, when it comes to Come Here, Milk and Pong, a lot of the times I'm not the biggest fan of having this card inside of my Diana save data, but it does have a couple of things you can do with it if you're playing around. One of the ones you can play around with the most, if you're playing with a lot of 0 cost exhaust cards, this one's actually pretty prevalent. We're not quite into season 3 yet, so if you're building some Diana save data, right, you can put some characters that have the spore generating cards in your builds, in your team setups, and this can turn, for example, like cards that you'll see throughout different seasons that are 0 exhaust cards, like the spores, into heart bullets, whether it's Heartbreaker or Heart Shaker, and just get a lot of value out of this as well. But keep in mind, that's jumping through a lot of hoops that I don't think you really need to jump through, and a lot of the time I'm simply just removing Come Here, Milk and Pong just out of my Diana save data entirely. And last and kind of least as well is Liberated Feelings. And my feelings about this card, well, they're kind of just, I think this is underperforming. I feel like my feelings are unliberated when it comes to Liberated Feelings, her ultimate card. It does some okay things. It's going to draw some exhaust bullet cards out of your deck, out of your graveyard, allowing you to reuse them. It does have some inherent synergies with her kit, with her design. But if you're really building save data to take most effective use out of the things we talked about, out of Quietus, out of building Heartseeker and generating those, and Heartbreakers and generating those, a lot of the time you're not really going to need this card, and it's just going to sit in your hand for 2 AP, and it's okay. You don't need to remove it all the time, but especially if Diana's your only character that's generating bullets, you're only going to have like 2 to 3 different kinds of bullets in your hand at any given time. And so the damage bonus from this thing and the damage to AP value that you have spending 2 AP on it just isn't quite there, in my opinion. So a lot of the times I do just take this out of my Diana save data, and it doesn't use this like at all. So the playstyle that you're going to be looking forward when putting Diana in your team is you're going to be using something like With All of My Heart to generate a bunch of Heartbreakers, discard those Heartbreakers that you generate either with other discard cards to get free follow-up bonus attacks there. You can also discard them, like we talked about, to the E3 of Blooming Love to then go ahead and find even more With All My Hearts. Just tutor them up because they're going to be one of the only Quietus cards out of your deck. You might get a Pistol of Purification too, but it's really With All My Heart, Blooming Love, and Pistol of Purification that you're really focusing on when building a team around Diana. And some of the best partners that you have access to is going to be someone like Nia and someone like Cassius. So first up, Nia is going to be an insane character for a team like this. And 2 of the cards that we're going to really focus in on, number 1, of course, is going to be Adagio. Adagio is absolutely fantastic with Diana. You can do a couple of things with this version of Adagio. One of the best ones is going to be obviously the E5 Adagio. You discard a card and then draw 2 of that combatant's cards. So you can discard one of the Quietus cards from Diana and then go find either like the other Quietus cards if you're on turn 1, or maybe even draw some of the Heartseekers and Heartbreakers back out of your deck as well if you're on like turn 2 or turn 3, so you don't have like an overflowing amount of those just taking up spots in your deck. It's a fantastic way for you to utilize Nia in there. Also, another thing we want to talk about is just like the base version of Adagio. They'll just like draw 2, discard 2, and put those on back of your draw pile. Well, if you're drawing cards and then discarding Quietus cards, the Quietus cards get used and go into the used pile. They actually don't go back on top of the draw pile. So if you're using something like this Adagio where you draw 2 cards and you discard 2 Quietus cards, you draw 2, don't put them on top of the deck, so this becomes a +1 card advantage, and then you also cast those Quietus cards for free with the Quietus mechanic because you're discarding them, making like Adagio absolutely insane when paired with Nia. On top of that, you also have Nia's Curiosity, where you look at the top 3, you can put one of those in your hand and discard the rest. So if you have Heartseekers and Heartbreakers on top of your deck, if you have Quietus cards on top of your deck, you can choose to put those into the graveyard, discard those, and they're going to activate their Quietus effects, their discard effects, even though you're discarding them off of the top of your deck with Nia's Curiosity. One of the final ones as well to get into the payoff for discarding cards is the E3, the 3rd Epiphany version of Soul Rip. And this allows you that every time you discarding cards, they're going to get extra attacks of 100% multiplier right away. So if you're building up this Nia Diana team where you're generating bullets, discarding bullets, generating bullets, discarding bullets, you're going to also be able to have this version of Soul Rip there and give you even more benefit, more extra attacks on top of the Heartbreakers, on top of the Heartshakers, on top of all of that stuff you're doing with Diana, and get even more extra attacks off of your Diana build. And then on top of all of that, you also have the final nail in the coffin for why Nia is pretty awesome here, and that's going to be her EP skill actually. So if you're spending a round or 2 where you're generating a bunch of these Heartbreakers, Heartshakers, putting them into the graveyard, discarding them, generating more the following turn, putting them back into the graveyard, and you'll be able to have, 20, eventually like 30, right? Let's just say like 15, 20 Heartbreaker, Heartshaker just sitting in your deck at some point. You can pop this, discard your whole deck, which is going to include all of those Heartbreakers, all of those Heartshakers, all of those Quietus cards, cast all the Quietus cards for free, get all those discard effects at the cost of just 5 EP off of Rock and Roll from Nia, which is just an absolutely insane thing that you can have for a team mate with Diana. Now, the other character we want to talk about as a 4-star is going to be Cassius himself, and he doesn't do a ton of crazy things as far as synergy goes, outside of one thing, which is going to be shuffle. Now, shuffle is going to allow you to discard cards out of your hand and activate their effects. And if you have this card draw Nia Cassius combo going in with Diana, with Diana's ability to also tutor out some of her own quietest cards, you can use either the E1 or the E2 version of shuffle, which is either going to be discard all your cards in your hand and draw for each of those discarded. So if you're discarding quietest cards, if you're discarding Heart Shaker, Heartbreaker, you're going to get all of those effects, put them in the graveyard, and then draw a brand new hand. And one big thing to note is that Heartbreaker and Heartshaker do not have Quietus on them. So they don't go into the use pile. They will sit in the graveyard. And what you're allowing yourself to do is you can develop a Cassius build that just has a crap ton of shuffle effects, where you have either this version of shuffle where you can cast it, 2 times before it fully exhausts, or you have this version of shuffle that allows you to choose what you want to discard out of your hand. This one's going to be more consistent. This one here with the exhaust 2 is going to allow you to do this sort of chain combo multiple turns in a row 2 times. And what the chain combo is looking at, right? The big thing here is all of those cards do sit in your graveyard, but you're also going to be drawing a crap ton of cards as well. When you're using someone like Nia with Adagio and all of these shuffles, you will be able to very quickly create a ton of bullet cards from Diana and draw through the entirety of your deck. And all of the cards that you've played that turn, all the quietest cards as well that you're discarding, those will all go to the use pile. But the only thing you'll have left in your deck is just going to be a bunch of Heartbreakers and Heartshakers. Those will all be in your discard pile. Once you run out of cards, they will shuffle back into your draw deck, and you can just say you have 4 shuffles, shuffle, discard a bunch, draw a bunch. Oh, I drew all of my Heartbreakers and Heartshakers again. Shuffle again, discard them all, draw them all, shuffle again, discard them all, draw them all. And that's going to give you the ability to stack up all of the different mechanics, all of the extra follow-up attacks from Heartbreaker and Heartshaker, and do good things that way. On top of that, you also have the ability to very easily get through Pop-Eyed Popper with this deck as well with Diana, because you can still cast some of Diana's cards for 0. So what you can do with Pop-Eyed Popper, you pick a quest, right? And then you pick the simple full house, right? So every time you cast one of each person's card, you're gonna get rewarded with a full house, which is gonna be a draw 1 for you, which is the main thing we care about. Very easy to get an extra 3 cards drawn with Cassius. It helps you filter through your deck, draw your important cards, empty that deck out as well, and get ready for like a crazy shuffle combo. So outside of that, you're just kind of looking at cool Cassius stuff with Pop-Eyed Popper, Shuffle, Devil Dice for 0, Joker as well, and probably remove the Dice Trick. Another character that you can think about if you have her in here is going to be Renoa as well. If you want to go into more of that bullet-oriented gameplay style, use like Renoa, Cassius, as well as Diana, or Renoa, Nia, as well as Diana, or Renoa and like Veronica, someone who can draw a bunch of cards, and just have like 2 of those bullet characters in there. You can utilize something like Flower of Devoured Fate, which typically is kind of hard for you to gain a big advantage of, right? Because it discards cards and then creates dirge bullets, and you're like, this is kind of fine, but also like it's not really doing anything for me. You have to discard 3 real cards. But when you're playing Renoa with Diana, it is very easy to proc one of that first quietest card with Nia or someone else, discard that, and it's going to generate 3 of those Heartbreakers or Heartshakers. Then you use Flower to Devour Fate to discard 3 Heartbreaker / Heartshaker, get the benefit, the bonuses off of that, and then generate those 3 Dirge bullets. So you're able to really sort of like triple down on all of the advantages of Diana, as well as boosting the gameplay style of Renoa with Flower of Devoured Fate as well. All in all, I think Diana is actually pretty well positioned to do good things if you have the right teammates for her and you have the right builds in the save data. Inside of Chaos, she seems fine. Outside of Chaos, I think one of the best teams is going to be that Cassius and Nia team. I'm going to have a video for that for you to go over as well. Full builds, memory fragments, all of that stuff. I'll say this, if you should or shouldn't pull for Diana, that's ultimately going to be up to you. I don't think I'm going to end up pulling for her on my main account, even though she is, well, best friends with 2 of my favorite characters in Chaos Zero Nightmare. The big discard, do all this extra follow-up attack stuff. It is very similar to putting together like a turn 1, turn 2, like Malin Infinity Dragon Kick, or like a turn 1, turn 2, like Serennial, like Infinity Lasers team from before. So if you're lacking some of those characters, you're a new player, you're like, I don't really know what to do with this character, I don't really have a big roster, can I get some value out of her? If you have Cassius on your account, if you have Nia on your account, she is going to do some super awesome things for you if you put that team together. If you want to see that video breakdown, hopefully I'll have that out tonight as well. If not, then maybe like early in the morning I'll set up for like 10 a.m. release. If you want to see that, make sure you hit that sub button, come back for more. God bless, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.